If possible, it's best to unroll the graphic sheets and lay them flat for 24 hours in order to let the curls relax. Remove hardware. Remove bell, rail, and all related hardware and set to the side for use later. Remove old graphics. Use a heat gun set to low or a hairdryer set to high to warm up the old graphics at one end. As the glue warms, it becomes easier to draw back the old graphic vinyl. Clean the surface. Use isopropyl alcohol and paper towels to clean the surface of the tower, making every effort to remove all dust, lint, and residual oils from handprints. The more clean the surface, the better the adhesion.
What I'll do to prep the tower, I'll wipe it down real good. Usually what happens with the powder coating process, you get little dust particles that'll collect in the powder coating itself, and they create little bumps. What I'll do is I'll take like a razor scraper and I'll go over the surface, the entire length of the tower, and that will knock off any little bumps and lumps that would stick inside the powder coating, and that'll give you a perfectly smooth, flat surface. Another thing I'll do is I'll also take one of these Scotch-Brite pads like this, and I'll use it just basically almost like I'm wiping it down, just make sure there's nothing sticking up that will hold that decal from laying down flat. Then after I do that, I'll spray it down with some window cleaner or whatever on a rag, and then make sure I wipe it down really good, make sure there's nothing on the tower. As I said before, anything on the tower that sticks up will show through the decal. Okay, the first thing is you want to make sure the surface is prepped. Make sure there's no dust or dirt on anything. Try to keep it as clean as possible, because every little piece of dirt will show through the decal. What you do is you lay out the decal, just go right out to the very end. If it overhangs a little bit, that's okay, because you can trim that off with a razor knife. Big thing is taking your time and making sure everything's lined up straight so the decal doesn't drift off, because the beam, the decal has to be straight for the next piece to line up. And you got 3 pieces, so that's why there's gaps on either side. You want to try to keep them as even as possible. I just eyeball it, and you can do that, but you want to make sure the gaps are even on both sides all the way up the tower. You got to do both sides of it, the top end and the bottom. Okay, make sure it's, because you don't want it drifting off. You want to make sure it comes straight, because you got each segment has to go overlap the other one. Okay, when you get it straight, I go about halfway. Let's go about halfway on there with a block to keep it from moving. I clamp it down. That keeps the decal from moving. Now what I do is after I clamp it down, I double check, make sure I didn't move it. Make sure, see how you've got a gap on both sides? You'll see a little gap. Try to make it as even as possible. Make sure it's even as possible on the bottom. Okay, once you got the decal clamped down and in place and it can't move, you pull this back. After I peel the backing paper off, I'll take a utility knife. I'll cut the backing paper off this half. Okay, then I'll start at the end here, work my way down. Make sure you get laying flat, get all the air bubbles out of it, and you get clear down to the end like that. Okay, once this side is secured down to the tower, you can move on. You just take the clamps off. You peel the top half back. You take the paper off. Make sure as you go, I constantly wipe the tower down, because any little speck of dust will create a little lump under the decal. You wipe it off, peel the paper off. I'll lay it down and I'll work my way down the decal until I get to the end. After I get that first piece secured, Then I'll move on to the second piece. And I'll do pretty much the same. The big thing about the second piece is you can see there's a little line right there. That's the overlap. Where that line is, that line should be even with the very edge of the first piece. What that does is that keeps all the pattern lined up, keeps the picture on the graphic lined up. You get that straight. Once you get that straight, you do the same process. You'll lay the block in the halfway point. Make sure it's not drifting off. You get the pattern lined up, you clamp it down, and then you just repeat the process. You peel the paper back, cut it off, lay it down carefully, make sure everything's lined up right. Then you just squeegee it right down over top of the other one. There'll be about a 3/4 of an inch overlap. Whenever you after you squeegee that out, once you get that second piece squeegee down, you take the clamp back off, peel it back up, take your rag, make sure there's no dirt and dust on the tower, peel the other half of the paper back, and then starting from where you left off, just squeegee it down till you get back to the end, till you get all the way to the end. I'll usually squeegee it and roll it like this, work it like this. That way I don't create any air bubbles, okay? And once you get to the end, you just repeat the process with the other piece. You make sure you overlap the same way. You got your line there. Make sure your gaps are even on either side, top and bottom. You clamp that piece down the same way, and just repeat the process.
Okay. Good.
And then at the end, you can take the utility knife. You'll see these little tabs here for alignment. You just take a knife and then you'll just go down to the edge of that and just trim those little tabs off. And if there's any overhang on the back end of the first one, you might have a little bit, because it makes it, you might have a little bit of a piece there, and you just shave that little piece off. And that's basically it.